If you took 7 or 8 or 10, or if we listed all of our different revenue sources that go under our umbrella, they're not all going to be hitting at once. And that's okay, because some of them are going to be polar opposites.
Hey everyone, welcome to Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers, where we aim to share real stories about running a successful family business while working through adversity and pouring back into our community that keeps our doors open every single day. We're your hosts, Shelby, Matt, and Taylor, and we'll be bringing you real, relevant local business advice, maybe some automotive insights that are sure to change the way you look at running a business or buying a car, and maybe even throw in a plug for you to do business with us here locally.
Hey, welcome back to Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers. Today we've got some exciting topics to talk about and a lot coming your way. This is episode 9, by the way, if you guys didn't know that. So some great content getting out there. Of course, we'll hit you with some CTAs here in a minute to make sure you follow us. But on today's episode, we're going to talk about the Construction Developers Awards Banquet, which we were at. Man, had a great time, and we'll dive into that. And then the second part of the podcast, we're going to talk about market opportunities. And that's going to come in a couple different ways of gaps, meaning maybe gaps you find out there in the business world that somebody is not serving up to customers, and you can fill that gap, or self-performing activities, meaning you're writing checks to other people and maybe you could just self-perform that work.
Absolutely. Hey, and if you didn't tune in last week, you need to go back and watch it. We talked about shifting gears, evolving in the current market that you're in. So it's not just automotive shifting gears, but was understanding it's important to see how you got where you're at, but realizing I'm not getting hung in that rut of what got you there was great, learn from it and adapt. So if the market's moving, or the way that you go through the market, the way that you operate business. So we broke that down in an hour's worth of what we've learned, what we've seen, how we've adapted. So make sure you're doing that. Hey, and make sure you're tuning in, checking in with us every single week, lewissuperstore.com, seeing all of our current offers. If you're diving into our content, Crossroad Conversations, make sure you leave us a review if you've liked what we've given you so far. And I know everyone's kind of getting that content from all different levels. It's on Spotify. It's on our website at Crossroad Conversations. Sure. It's on Apple. It's across the board. Make sure you leave us a review. That helps us get us to the top, and make sure that our relevant content is making it out to the consumer, the end user. And so we just want to make sure that you leave a review if you see that. So from there, Taylor, where do we go?
Hey, it's what we drive this week. And I know y'all kind of dove into last week of lightning. Shelby got pretty fired up about the lightning, all the do's and don'ts and everything else about it. Hey, but I've got a great switch piece for you if you're not in for a lightning. It's called a Power Boost, and we've got a lot of them.
What is that?
Power Boost is Ford's version of their F-150. It's their hybrid.
Okay.
So it still gives you all the, gas mileage, but my most favorite part, you can still power your house. 7.2 kilowatts. But my favorite part about it,
what?
You can still get it and drive to Walla World across the country because it's still got gas, everything else. So still drive it like a normal. You're going to power your house, you're going to get the best fuel economy, and you can still drive it across the U.S.
It also has the highest tow rating.
It does.
It is the best of all the world.
It is.
I was going to say, my favorite part about the Power Boost, besides what y'all have said, is the amount of power it has.
Yes.
It's in the first part of the word.
It's faster than the Raptor. It's the second fastest production truck in Ford's lineup behind their supercharged Raptor because of the torque that it brings, over 560 foot-pounds of torque. But that's all on that. It's an awesome feature.
Yeah, cool rig.
Great, yes, cool rig. But diving into, Matt, there, we've got a little bit of, you were talking about the construction development meeting, the awards banquet we were at last night.
Man, you talk about what an event and really an exciting time for us. You've heard probably on the previous episodes, we don't build buildings every single day.
No.
For us to be a part of this event that went on, and it was an entire Northwest Arkansas, the awards banquet. Not only did we attend, we walked away with an award.
We did. Pretty dang sweet.
I know.
You'd been working on this, and this was kind of something through the chamber that you'd been a part of. And I told Taylor last night, you emceed the whole thing. You were up there. I guess he was second pick to Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they.
It was that and Bobby Bones. Those were the
Bobby
other.
Bones,
I made the top 3 was.
Well,
I guess I was the only one that answered the phone.
You were the best MC last night. So great job there. But so we we were the sponsor of the thing, you were leading it, and I was like, we've paid too much for that. But we got the Showcase Award.
We did get the Showcase Award, and not to get in the weeds, but what this Construction Developers Awards Banquet's about is Northwest Arkansas and the projects that have happened in Northwest Arkansas to either preserve Northwest Arkansas or to equal growth opportunities. So we saw everything. We saw road improvements that we talked about. Some cool buildings up in Rogers had that skywalk.
They had a skywalk. They had a amazing parking deck that had retail shopping in it.
The parking deck.
They had an art corridor.
Yes. They redid UARK Bowl to the Leroy.
I know. That thing is pretty sweet. I passed it on the way home. I was like, that's pretty cool. Springdale High School, their gymnasium.
They redid it.
High school. They did that modern elementary or high school that was in
England, Arkansas.
We figured out where that was at. Didn't even know where it was at.
The thing that I noticed and that I loved, because it was all things like structural engineer, architectural, and then the actual people, the construction people that put it all together, the contractors, is everyone, I think, collectively would tell you that they did business with local people. I think that was whether they said that or not. We kept seeing kind of the same clique of, I pick this person to be my MEP, or I pick this person to be my civil engineer. I pick this person to be my... And they were all local people. There's just great value. We know there's a lot of things you can go online, click and buy. But really, when it comes to putting the rubber to the road, that's kind of something that I noticed.
Our friend David Swain, he got up there, and he's over a large corporation of building. I don't know that we can call that out on here. But he really pushed this company that has a lot of resources in Northwest Arkansas when it came to a high-level project to say, no, I've got confidence in the local architects and the local construction people and the subcontractors to make your vision come true. And he kind of put his neck out there, and they did it.
He did. It was 150,000 square foot that they built. One of the largest, I think it said on there, one of the largest developments of its kind.
Of office and retail space,
And his main provider, I think they had the world at their fingertips, so we could use this. And he said, nope. I want to use the local people.
Yeah.
Because they know the nooks and crannies and how to make things function and flow. So he was thanking them last night for saying, hey, thanks for not dropping and leaving me high and tight,
Yeah, so Navaholtz helped them out there, and it's a pretty cool story of Navaholtz. That's who did all of our construction stuff. They're a family-owned business. They're the largest in Arkansas. They started just a couple years after us.
I think 1949.
49 or 48, right in there. So just a couple years after us, they started. So that's what this whole event was about. I was honored to be able to MC it. We got great exposure there. And you're like, well, why were y'all involved in construction and development? Well, if you think about it, you guys got to think deeper in your business. Construction and development, one of their tools to be more efficient is trucks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We sell trucks.
Oh, yeah.
So when you're thinking about, don't just get this narrow-minded or your blinders on in business, is you got to branch out. What does your network look like? Those guys are truck drivers.
I loved seeing that because there was people, it's like, I know that guy. And I'm not always the best with names, but when I see a face, I'm sure, I know that guy. And so it was a person maybe that performed some type of trade for us. But then Taylor was talking to one of the mechanical people, and she was like, hey, and she's service after the sale that had done work for us. She's like, no, I've talked to you on phone about one of my vehicles being in service. Yes. It's a full circle. All these businesses are so full circle.
Yeah, and then shout out to our friends over there at Centennial. The banks were there too. So when you start thinking about this, I got asked multiple times, like, why you're not a construction person, you're not a developer, why are you there?
You are now.
Yeah. I got a very expensive degree in it. But when you start looking deeper, and I'm sure y'all caught on to that, I kind of pitched that at first. When you look at your impact, it's everybody. It's the bankers where the money came from, how you're going to insure it, your suppliers, your vendors, so on. And we saw that last night. So there was a bunch of cool awards. I think we had 13 total awards that went up there. The Fayetteville Chamber, shout out to them, to Steve and Jennifer and their entire team. They put on an awesome event in the Fayetteville Town Center. So that goes on every year, usually happens about mid to late October. So make sure that's on your calendar. And if you got cool projects going on, when that opens up, you can submit it as well. Any other takeaways? Anything else you guys saw, from the event?
No, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. But of knowing your business, if you're listening to this, the impact is not just your employees. I love this whenever you put it out last night. It was talking about, so no matter what business you're in, sit here and think about, I've got my employees, you've also got your employees' family members that it affects down there. But then you went into last night of vendors. You kind of started to go into insurance, but of your vendors. So like in our world, people that fix the cars, people that clean the cars, people that supply any parts that are outside of our, Ford or CDJR parts. There's a whole list that you help and impact that's the whole area. So that was a huge thing that you touched on last night.
Yeah, and I think that was the total economic impact that you were talking about, and it goes so much further than just the direct people and the direct hands that you see. Yeah. And so before making a decision, decisions are important of understanding that, but it was cool to see from other people's perspective. And then, I think you recapped and ended it talking about, hey, keep in mind all the little kids running around, putting the names on the back of their T-shirts for their baseball or the football teams, and what that really means.
I think so, and not to call out some other big businesses that probably most of y'all have done business with, but Amazon's not going to sponsor your kids' baseball team.
And I'm a frequent flyer of Amazon. They show up every day.
I know, but when you can, and I know it's not 100% possible all the time, but when you can, do business local.
Oh, yes.
Because then they're going to help. In our case, people want a car for a parade.
Oh, yeah.
Or a truck to tow something. Or they want this or they want that. Well, that's why we've talked in our previous episodes. It's an entire circle. It comes back around. That's why we were so excited about this project. It's not just the new and fancy buildings, but we've already given 85 new employees somewhere great to work. We're already doing more business and parts, service, and sales, which equals more revenue for us to sponsor more in the community. And that's how it comes all the way back around. And I think that was the important part is everybody we saw there was local. They were proud of their projects, and their projects not only offered jobs to those who were constructing the project, but it also was a machine for years to come of employment and suppliers and opportunities and resources. So it was a really cool event to be able to step back out of the weeds, see what's going on in Northwest Arkansas. It's got to give you a shot of adrenaline of like, whoa, all this is really happening in our backyard. We're in a great place.
Yeah, it was definitely cool and eye-opening to see all that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. So, automotive fun fact of the week, what do you got?
His fun fact of the week. Let's think about this. How many fully electric model vehicles are there currently?
Now, fully electric, like plugging it into the wall.
Plugging it into the wall, not a hybrid, not a plug-in hybrid, so fully electric, only runs off batteries.
It's kind of becoming, at first it's like, no, that ain't cool, ain't gonna happen.
Feasible now.
It's more and more feasible. You kicked me off the lighting, said I can't talk anymore about it, but I'm just plugging it in one time a week.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
And it just one of our guys from work. Rant here.
Yeah.
He went camping this weekend with his lightning.
Oh, he loved it.
And he plugged in his Keurig coffee maker.
All
He
the
powered
stuff.
his entire tent with his inflatable mattress, his lights. He plugged in his 42-inch TV, his hotspot plugged in his MacBook Pro. He went into the camping spot Friday night at 78%. When he left Sunday, he was at 76%.
Oh, that's so good. So I think that's really helping people with that range anxiety that they talk about.
Yeah, and he was concerned. So how many?
Here's your options. We like multiple choice,
Yeah, it's easy to
Don't
win.
just pick C, okay? A is 20, B's 40, C's 15, and D's 53. Don't give me your answer now. That comes later in the show, okay?
So 20, 40, 15, or 53 full electric currently as we sit today.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, so next we're going to go into future market opportunities.
Oh, this is a fun subject.
So we've talked about this before, like how do you stay relevant? How do you stay excited about what's going on? And how do you make sure you don't get left behind? We talked about that last week. And so we look at future market opportunities, and sometimes when we get to step back a little bit, one of the practices, what we have done is to say, look at your accounts payable. So take a minute, dive into your accounts payable and see who were you paying. And that's been one of those exercises that we've ran before, and to say, and think about that. Some of them are not worth it to take over yourself because you have to manage it, pay for insurance,
Just didn't worth the squeeze on that one.
But if you can have it under your own umbrella,
Sure.
then maybe you can squeeze a little more out of it. So what are some of the things that we've found
So what we found, and Shelby tried to help everybody that's listening, is you go, okay, that's a great idea, but what's my action item? How do I identify that? So I got to unpack that first. Is you go to accounts payable and you say, show me who we're writing checks to, not one-offs. Reoccurring, frequent-wise. So give me over the past 6 months or the year. Even if you have a small business and you're just in QuickBooks or Quicken, you can do the same thing.
Yeah.
You can do the same thing. And then you go, okay, could I self-perform that work? Now, this goes small to big. So we're going to go through just a couple examples here. Let's talk about small. How many times do you write a check for paper goods? Toilet paper, paper towels, soap, so on and so forth. That's a reoccurring expense, right?
Yes.
Could you self-perform that? And we ran the gamut on that. And at this point in time now, what'd that look like?
So it looks at what does that cost?
Yes.
So how much does a roll of toilet paper cost?
Yep.
Versus what you're paying for it.
Yep.
And then who is going to do that action item? And so do you have a person that can do it? If you don't, you have to get someone else.
Yep.
So then you have another person that costs, and you have to manage will they be there, will they not be there. So at current time, paper goods, it makes sense. That's where the X would be. Keep paying someone to do that for you. It takes the hustle away from it, because if you or I or you have to do that,
what opportunity cost is it coming at?
Yeah, that means we can't be in something more relevant.
Okay, so I'm going to give you one more before we start going to the wins. All right, so the next one we looked at, especially when we were moving, is vending. Yes. We got vending machines everywhere.
Yeah. We got a lot.
Do we self-perform vending?
I kind of wanted to do that.
And I liked it. You know, you brought up the soap idea and the paper towels, and I liked where your mind was going, but I was like, I don't think the margin's there if we got to pay somebody. And it might be in the future, especially if we have somebody that needs something else to do. The vending got really close, and I'm not saying it won't happen in the future. Just at that point in time, it's like we don't have the extra resources right now, and we had to prioritize because we were trying to scale our businesses.
Yeah. So low-hanging fruit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, our employees think that we make millions off the vending machines. Sorry to break the news. We have nothing to do with it.
I'm pretty sure we got a check the other day. Now, you got to remember, we have to supply the electrical, for the vending machine. We got a check the other day for like $235 for a quarter.
Yeah, I think they pay like 0.5% or something.
Of a percent. Anyways.
So vending was not a thing
that
for
didn't
us.
work. All right, so let's get to some things that did make sense. One of the things back in the day, and we've done this for a little while, we looked at how many times were we sending, we sell a lot of trucks. How many times were we sending a truck out and getting a spray and liner done?
Often.
A lot.
Yes.
And we're like, here's how the exercise goes. If I could self-perform one of these activities internally and it already covers the cost, maybe even makes a couple dollars, then I could promote that outside, and it's icing on the cake.
Especially if it becomes a convenience factor.
That's the other part.
That was the trick of, like, we would call, customer wants the truck now, it's a Friday, it's a Saturday, you have to wait to call Monday because you don't have control of the books, and they're like, hey, we're 2 weeks out. Like, how many are you doing a day? Can you get a couple more in?
Yes.
The other thing I'll talk about there, Taylor, is Shelby talked about the convenience. I talked about the money opportunity. You talk about, when somebody buys a new F-150 from you, and they say, hey, I want to spray in bed liner. You offer up the service. What happens if that third-party vendor drops the ball? Who looks bad?
We do. And it's every time, and we've ran into that so many times.
But you're not the one spraying.
It doesn't matter.
You're not the one that called in sick.
It's the one we're providing the service. It's no different than any product that you're providing, that whenever you assume that product and you assume that service and you provide that, your name is on the line. So you better well know who is doing the service, what product you're providing, and when something goes wrong, and it's not if, it's when. Something will go wrong, whether it's the vehicle or anything else. How are you going to respond to that? How are you going to take care of that? So Matt was talking about that. We've ran into many times of that. There's been overspray, and they act like there's nothing wrong. They broke pieces, and you go back, and they're not going to pay for anything.
Or the customer's sitting there waiting for you, and then show them back up.
That's the worst part. It's like egg on your face. It's kind of like, it's kind of the tricky thing of, like, and we're not going to build cars, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of the tricky thing of like Ford builds the cars,
Yes.
CGR builds the cars and send them to us. Now we represent them, and we have channels to go through. But with these vendors, it's like this doesn't seem overly difficult. Like if we could get somebody to perform it maybe a little bit quicker, but have a higher performance standard, right? And then we could really build the books there. Like profit was, once again, not a dirty word, but was not the number one thing. It was about convenience and time and quality. So then we can go back and be like, man, you got to work on your quality. Like,
That's right.
This just keeps happening. And so we get to give time, tools, and training on that. And so that's the thing that we've kind of gone through a roller coaster, and COVID kind of put a damper on that. But that was one of those things that we could do.
It really is. So that one, the outcome on that is, and there's a whole other phase coming on that in the future, but that one, we got to self-perform the work. We were already writing the check out, so we knew we could cover the business model when we looked at the structure. Convenience was better, our quality was better, and then it was profitable as well. So that was a win where we didn't have to go out and spend any advertising dollars. The business model was already built in to our accounts payable because we discovered how many times we were doing that.
Yeah.
We've done the same thing on window tint.
Yes.
Same thing on window tint. And you really helped me kick that off the ground, too. Now, you got to have the right people in place, just like as always.
Gosh.
But you remember a couple of those guys you had. How many people get their window tinted?
About every person. And the ones that don't get it done, if you offer that to them and see, they definitely all want it done. So that's a high take rate item. And I think it's really important to remember, we were talking about there, but take this note down. You need to know on vendors, just because it's your only option doesn't mean you have to stay with that.
Yeah.
You have to self-check them, go back, quality can check. Shelby talked about time, tools, and training. We use that as an internal teaching of our employees, but you have to go back and don't let the vendor think that you're the only person that they can, or that they're the only person you can use.
Yeah, I agree.
You have to go back and make sure you're holding them to a high standard because you're next on the line.
Because if not, your customer will, right? They have no problem hurting your feelings, right? They're going to kick you in the teeth. And it's because it's what they paid for, right? I'm not mad at them. I'm mad at how they deliver it. But, so, yeah, that's a good point to make sure, hold your vendor at the same accountability level. But then if it's something you can self-perform, you have the availability of the space and the time, then they might say, let me absorb that. I can handle that, and then so we're talking about future market opportunity. That would be a win.
It would be a win. Okay, a third one before we go to some market opportunities we've identified. And this rolls back. We've been doing this for a while. But back in the day, when we take in, I'm not talking about the new vehicle that comes in that then we just have to wash off, take the stickers off, vacuum it maybe a little bit, because it comes in clean.
Yeah.
A new vehicle comes off the transport. Sure. It might have a little bit of road grime on it, but we clean it up, we get it ready to go. I'm talking about the used vehicle that you trade into us, that you left all your McDonald's bags in, and the pet hair, and all the rest of the stuff in the bed of the truck. Those vehicles have to go through a reconditioning process of not only mechanically, but then physically. So an actual detail. So back in the day, we subbed that out.
Yeah.
And, you see detailers all around town. And, a detail runs anywhere from $150 to $300.
Oh, easily.
If not even more.
Get the McDonald's smash and you're going 5 or 6 years.
So then when you start looking at that and go, okay, well, if we're acquiring, hundreds of vehicles every single month, is that a business model? Now, when we talk about this as a business model, we're going to take Recon, we're going to call it. It's its own profit center, okay? It doesn't do it at a zero profit to the used car department.
No, it needs to, when you squeeze the lemon, the effort that you put into it, something has to return. Otherwise, it was wasted out.
It needs to be another business. It needs to make sense, okay? But it needs to be another business within your business is profitable. So when we looked at that, and that's been going on for a long time now, but that was a great opportunity. We didn't have to advertise anymore. We were writing those checks out to somebody else. Let's do it internally. Let's get a better product. We have control of it. It can be profitable, so on and so forth. So that's another opportunity that we identified. Hopefully this just gets your mind going, okay, what all do I use in my business? Is there another area I could self-perform? Either maybe I can layer that in there as another business opportunity. It's not just all about saving the money. It's what's the convenience? How's the quality? And is it a better result for my employees or my customer?
Hey, let me tell you a layer on that. As you were talking about that, I got to thinking, and there was a guy last night that I was talking to at the banquet, and he was asking me like, hey, how many cars do you think someone needs to sell to have a dealership? I was like, it depends, right?
That's a loaded question.
I said, is your dealership in Fayetteville? Is it in New York? Or is it in Lincoln, Arkansas? And so we're kind of talking through that. And so I was trying to bring that down to average everyone understand. And so you were talking about opportunities that we've seen and grown into. There's a really big sustainability factor. And as I was putting it to where it made sense to him, so think about that. If we control reconditioning, if we control doing the spray and bed liner, and if we do service, if you're just selling cars, then your only opportunity is selling the cars. But if you service them, it allows you to be able to control and handle more. But it also says if market changes and you're just selling cars, then we've talked about that before. We talked about the turn. But so I said that allows me, because it's funny, because he was talking about, well, my son's thinking about this, and we think if we can sell 3 cars a week, we can do that. I said, I get that. And so you can probably sell it for cheaper than what I can.
Sure.
He said it's the same thing in my engineering firm, and he kind of spun it on himself and didn't realize it. And he said, but my engineering firm is trying to get people to see the value. And no, we have depth in our engineers.
Absolutely.
And I said that's the same thing of somebody opening a used car lot. What's to say that next week they're tired of dealing with angry customers if they don't close the door? I said, so think about this. If the used car market isn't super hot in that time, then we have this to help pay for that. So many people in the seasonal business, in the boat business, or the landscaping business, and you're like, wintertime's tough. I got to lay people off. So these opportunities allow you to say, it's okay to have a margin of this, a small margin, because this helps pay for this. And then it helps you be recession-proof. We've talked about that. So all these opportunities are potential of growth, but also help you weather all the storms.
They do. And if you study anybody out there, some of the top entrepreneurs or top investors out there, they all have multiple streams of income.
What do they say, 7?
And it's not 7, minimum of 7. And it's not all coming from the same river.
No.
So when you think about that, you need things that complement each other. And, if you took 7 or 8 or 10, or if we listed all of our different revenue sources that go under our umbrella, they're not all going to be hitting at once. And that's okay, because some of them are going to be polar opposites.
Yep.
For example, if we're selling a ton of new cars, you might not be having as many people fix up their cars in the shop. But we saw this during COVID, and so did some of our friends in the tractor business and the equipment business. They saw this too. When inventories went down, people were spending more in the shop.
Because they kept their cars for longer.
Because they kept it for longer, because it was still a resource to them and a tool. So when you start thinking about these things in your business, get stuff that complement each other. And if they're not all hitting on all cylinders, that's okay, because that means that you got a safety net over here. When one falls, this one comes up. It's a teeter-totter.
That was, and as I was kind of breaking it down to what, hey, let me explain this to you. And then he talked about, our architect and the engineer versus this. Sure. And I was like, you're right on it, buddy. Let me show you. I was like, look, our prices are so relevant because they have to be. And sometimes they're negative net relevant because it's their entrance into the door. I said, but then we get to show that we offer all of this one-stop shop. Like the reason that you go to Walmart instead of just a specific store, to Amazon or whatever it may be, is because of their vast opportunity. When you're there, you can hit it all. That's kind of the idea in business, to be able to help that, and the pluses and minuses.
We were talking about that, not to get in the middle there, Matt, but me and Shelby were talking about this the other day. See, we've scaled. Our business has definitely gotten bigger than what it was. And this is a great tool tip for you to know if you're scaling and get in the middle of. Okay. We were going over, we like customizing things, and it's kind of just like 1 or 2 off. We don't have a full customization department, but talking about, and Shelby and I were going over, and I said, you know what, we've gotten so busy in selling, I forgot to go back and Broncos. Let's talk about Broncos, because we love painting the fender flares or doing something different and having that different vehicle that's fun. Remember, this vehicle's fun and it's supposed to be fun. Like Shelby, we got to remember, how do I manage this? How do I balance this? Hey, we're big scale. I want to have this, that we're within the market, we're priced competitively, but how do we stay in making sure we're having things that are different or one-off or having fun customizing? So remember, in your business, when you get scaled to a higher level than where you're at, make sure you're still taking time, and whether it be going back to your roots or what you're going to making sure you're still customizing and going off of that as well.
That makes good sense. Okay, so all of that shows opportunities within that you're already spending money at. Now let's talk about opportunities that you see within your scope, okay, but maybe missing in the marketplace, meaning somebody else is not in that space.
Yeah.
That's a tough one in our business because we are in a very mature, competitive business. Just in the Ford business, there's 3,500 dealers.
Oh, yeah. There's
US?
Yeah, and they've been doing it since the 19-teens, right? You know, so they've kind of figured out the automobile and how to service and to sell.
So this was a tough one for us. It really was. We're always thinking about it. But we found one.
We found it.
We found it.
In our 10 years of working on new projects in 100 different stores, if you don't know that, we went to 100 different stores.
In person.
Found Taylor some good tacos.
It's a long
in
day.
Texas. We saw, first we saw it in Tulsa. And then we saw it in Vegas. And then I think we saw it in Texas. We kept seeing... Because remember, we weren't looking for who had the cool hot dog machine. So we were looking at flow, ingress, egress, all those things. We kept seeing a good amount of larger vehicles. We saw some Class C RVs.
Okay.
We saw utility trucks. Think of all your electric companies.
All right.
Think of all your cable companies, everything that has utility bed.
Yeah.
We saw some small-scale school bus stuff.
Okay.
We saw 450, 550, 650, 750. Like
The box trucks?
The box trucks, the Best Buys, and all that. All of the trades, the trade industry that keeps this world going around that's so relevant, we kept seeing them piled up at few dealerships, and we said, do you guys sell RVs? Like when we got to talking to them, said, do you sell RVs? What are those? I said, no. Those are our vehicles for our commercial, our heavy-duty division, and we are so backed up.
What do you mean commercial, like commercial sales?
No. Service.
Oh, service, commercial service.
So in a lot of those, like if you think about cities, they have their own maintenance team that changes the fluids, can do some brakes and basic tune-ups. But then they get into warranty work. Warranty work, that means the manufacturer says, hey, I said it's good for 3 years, 36,000 miles, and we'll cover the repair for you. Something went wrong, water pump went out, turbo's out, whatever it is. And so then it had to go back to a Ford dealer, and there was a line a mile long because they take a lot of space.
They do take a lot of space. Now, before Shelby goes any farther, let me help the listeners get context here. What we're talking about is the medium-duty segment here.
Yep.
Because, if you have an Expedition or you got a Wrangler, or F-150 or a Ram, you can almost take it anywhere and get the oil change, the brakes fixed.
You shouldn't, but you can.
Shouldn't, but you can. You have options. That's what we're saying there. If you have a Class 8, like a big semi, when you drive up and down the interstate, those places are open 24/7.
Oh, yeah.
You find those places everywhere. So we're talking about this niche, medium-duty, that take up too much space, which is where you were going, in the normal shop. And that's why most service managers, it's not that their techs aren't certified to work on them, it takes up too much space.
Yeah, and so what we found was because every truck is different.
It is.
Right? We ordered some trucks that have an 8-foot bed, and I'm talking about utility beds.
Oh, yeah.
Some are 12. Our buddy Jim Harp loves them with the 20-foot beds on them.
Yeah.
Or something. We put extensions on them, and they get longer and longer. So your lift, it's hard to get a lift that facilitates that one size fits some, most, or all, and they don't. So we kind of had to rethink that. So we said, hey, I know we came here thinking this, but we just kept seeing it every once in a while. And so then once we saw that it was on our radar, right?
Exactly.
Now we're hunting for chupacabras.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now we're in this. And so then we started to look and see what's in our area. Our area, Northwest Arkansas, growing 750,000 plus people. I don't know. I hadn't counted them this morning, but...
It's close.
600, 750, 628. Who does that? And what do we find?
The closest place was either north of Joplin. Okay, or you had to go past Fort Smith.
Okay.
So there was nobody in Northwest Arkansas.
So convenience wasn't there.
It wasn't there.
And if you did find it, what was the waiting time?
If you did find it, it was backed up for months.
Which is not good because most of these vehicles, that would be downtime. It's not like your vehicle like, hey, I need to take my kids to school.
No.
It's their vehicle that provides their trade that operates their business.
Which means that it's not all about price. You have to be competitive, but what's more important is how quick can you get that tool for that electric company or that plumber or that rental company that has the box truck, how quick can you get it turned around and back on the road?
Yeah, it's so relevant. So they say, hey, how much is that? But before you even answer that, how quick can you have me back on the road?
Yep.
So we saw that, and we said there is a need for that.
So good.
And this was not an easy, like, hey, let me go ahead and take over the toilet paper order. Like
No,
this,
is a big
there
one.
was more to this.
This is
So
a big one.
I said, all right, 26 acres. How's
Here
it
we go.
looking? What do we got? What's available?
So we started off that with, we built this shop only, and that's air conditioned. It's a nice shop. Shop only that was 8,000 square feet. All right.
75 foot wide.
75 foot wide, and then whatever the rest of the math on that is.
Yeah.
We ended up building it at 15,000 square feet because of the opportunity we saw.
Because within the idea, we saw, whoa, that's not enough.
It's not enough. So when we identified, okay, all these places are backed up, then we looked at the data. Ford is the number one provider of gas RV chassis of all RVs. That's the vehicle we're talking about. They're the number one provider of vans and box trucks. Okay, you see all the Penske trucks running around, this and that. And then when you get into municipalities, the 450s and 550s, the 4500 and 5500, Ford and Ram are in the top two for all the electric companies, all the service companies, all those with service.
I think they own over 75% of the commercial market.
So when you look at that, it's like there's the need. We got the space.
We had the technicians.
We had the we already were certified in the parts and the technicians.
Yeah, we were already a CVC dealer for Ford, so Commercial Vehicle Center.
Absolutely.
So we were already. So we started building this thing, and so it's a huge building. And so what do we do in the lifts? How do you lift these things?
We completely redesigned. We have mobile column jacks in there and lifts, so they adjust to the wheelbase of the vehicle. Whether you got something that's a 100-inch wheelbase or a 280-inch wheelbase, it adjusts to that, and it can lift up to 60,000 pounds. And we had to rethink that because, like you said, it's 75 feet across. We made the bays different where if you had a trailer hook to it, we were trying to diag that, you could pull 75 feet all the way through without clogging the whole shop.
Yeah.
Most shops, if you pulled down the spine of it, the middle of it, you could pull 75 feet in there, but nobody could get out.
You couldn't get in or couldn't get out.
So we needed the efficiency to still be there.
So we took all this out of our normal shop.
Yep.
And then we put it in this big shop to say, okay, so we haven't officially opened this thing
It's like a soft
to the
opening.
world. We've got a soft opening because we can do that. And so we've got a team over there right now working on it and just kind of working the kinks out. But we've got a parking lot already full of.
And I've told many people this when we show them around. I said, this is the building I'm most excited about. And they're like, what are you talking about? Yeah, it's a cool building. It's nice and it's 15,000 square feet, but we just left your gym.
Yeah.
We just looked at your cool showrooms.
That's your business.
But because this one, you want to talk about stream of revenue where there's a market opportunity that stays consistent as long as you take care of the customer. It's there.
It's there, and it's the sustainability model because you're not in the cutthroat business of everybody's doing it for a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less because people can't perform it right now. They don't have the space for it. And if they do, they don't have enough time or enough people to do it. So
that was a bigger scale. When we talked about that, that was a bigger scale of opportunity we talked about. We start off with soap and vending machines and this and that. Then that is a bigger, we put the Line-X in. That took more than the window tint. That was a bigger opportunity, and it took some more research, but it's there.
It's there. And what did, and this is deeper than maybe you wanted to go, but so in that, as we grew from 8,000 to 15,000 square foot, in selling cars, we've learned that there's generally a butt for every seat. And oftentimes, we've kind of gone through this, that if something, if it stops, starts, and steers and is a good car, someone's going to sell it, right?
They are.
So if we sell it to Bobby Joe Motors down the road, then he's going to sell it, right?
Sure.
And he could close his doors tomorrow. And sometimes we get black eyes from these vehicles, because they're a used car, 150,000 miles. But what we were realizing is when we sold these cars, because we kept them like they might as well be under our umbrella. We might as well service them. And then so then when such and such says, hey, I got little Jimmy, he's about to turn 16. I don't need a new car because he's going to bash this off every mailbox and tree down the road. So we kept those cars. On the end of this shop, we added in 4 more repair bays that allows us to be non-core material. So non-core, what's that?
Okay, so I know where you're going here, and this is an additional whole model here. Non-core would be not a Ford, not a Chrysler, not a Jeep, not a Ram, okay? So that would mean we trade for everything. That would be a Chevrolet, that would be a Lexus, that would be a Kia, that would be a Honda. Any of those that we trade for, we weren't able to self-perform the work. And it's not that our mechanics in the Ford or the CDJR shop didn't know how to do it. It's that they were already backed up on stuff they were used to doing.
Correct.
So what we were having to do is outsource that to the other local dealers who we've got good relationships with that would then have to work on those vehicles to either get them ready, or if a customer bought one of those and we were making it right because something happened, then again we were at the mercy of them getting it fixed. Yep. So when we looked at that, I won't give you the exact numbers, but I can tell you on a yearly basis, it was over $200,000 a year that we were spending to outside shops just to do repair work.
And the biggest thing, like the money was eye-opening that started the conversation, but it was the exact opposite of what we've been talking about of opportunity. It was out of our hands, but because they bought it from us and we told them, hey, don't take it to the Chevy store, bring it to us and we handle it. So then we subletted it to the local Chevy store because they already knew us, liked us, and trust us. And sometimes the advisors would say, we can't work on that, just go to Chevy. Well, they didn't know anybody at Chevy. Like, we'd worked so hard for them to be our customer. So even if you set the money aside, then we had no control. And so then our salesperson was asking our advisor. That advisor had to call the Chevy advisor, who had to go talk to the Chevy technician, so then had to get a write-up of what was wrong, and it had to go to their advisor, had to come to our advisor, had to go to the salesperson, who had to go to the manager, sales manager, to get approval, to then talk to the customer, so then had to go back to our service advisor, had to go to their service advisor, had to go to the technician to get fixed. And there's a lot of work going on, but the customer has no clue. So we said, bring it back in.
Yeah, let's just
bring it back in.
Let's just fix that and let's streamline. And Taylor, I know you can go into there on that's just now getting started, but what that's going to equal opportunity besides just the money portion of it, but the customer experience.
I mean, that'll be huge, the customer experience, because as Shelby talked about, we spend all this time getting a customer in, winning them over on our process, everything else, and then it's almost like handing over a golden goose that you've worked so hard on cultivating a customer and saying, now, you hit the nail on the head of the whole process of A, B, C, D going back forth.
Somebody's going to drop the ball.
It rarely happens as smooth as what Shelby's talking about. More times than not, we look up and the customer is there at the dealership working with them. So what it's done is it's bringing it back into our control, like we've talked about the other. One, convenience. We can, one, get it straight in right away, but then two, the customer, we can control the whole way and control the process. So then the customer is going to have a much better experience throughout and continue to enjoy that car, and it allows us to be able to stock our non-brand used vehicles in there so that customers can enjoy those and we can take care of them the same way we do with our new vehicles.
It also makes us more well-rounded. So when it comes to if people are fixing their vehicles or they're buying their vehicles, we now are going to develop, and this one's early in the stages. I'm glad Shelby brought it up, but, you know, we're now going to have technicians that can work on all makes, all models, which gives us an additional layer in there, not only to take care of our customer, but as a revenue source for us that we can be able to then sell, provide more opportunities, more jobs, and more of a one-stop shop where we can help all of that process out. So again, that was another opportunity. We'll have more to come that we'll circle back around and tell you how this commercial repair is going and then how the non-core is going.
Yeah, so those are early process. It was opportunity, and it was too good to let it go.
I know. It was definitely eye-opening. And we'll talk some other time about also how that's going to stair-step technicians and how our whole apprentice program how we're going to stair-step. That's a whole nother episode. But, man, got some really good discussion today on market opportunities. Of course, we talked about construction development, but market opportunities where you can hopefully identify in your business by just looking at your accounts payable. We got to go back to what I hit you guys with. How many fully electric vehicles are there currently? And I'm going to ask both of y'all for what your guess is, okay? Remember, it's either 20, 40, 15, or 53. Taylor, what's your guess?
I'm going to say 20.
You say 20. And Shelby?
I'm going to go in the high spectrum and say there's 53.
You know, I probably would have picked the 15 or the 53 because my theory is if it's round, it's not real.
Yeah.
But that theory got blown up here. It's 40. There's
40
currently
all-electric vehicles.
40 all-electric vehicles in the market.
You know what's good about that?
What's that?
Is that competition is good.
It is.
It is good.
And we learned that with Bronco and Jeep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like Jeep was on its own. It
was good.
It took Bronco to come into the market for Jeep to understand, stop putting the mirrors on the doors.
Or have a power seat.
Yes.
Or have a backup camera.
But they didn't have to.
They didn't have to because
So
they were
that's
the
when
only
the competition
one.
was good.
If you're the only person selling coffee, it doesn't matter what your coffee tastes like because you're the only show in town.
That's so good.
And so realizing that with electric vehicles, that means battery technology needs to be better. It needs to be less expensive because it's so expensive right now.
Yes.
Not generally to the consumer. It's the manufacturers eating it all right now. Your battery needs to last longer. It needs to be not affected so much by the climate size. So with 40 cars on the road electric,
yes,
and I'm not saying electric is the end all be all, but it's a great alternate pair of shoes to have in your closet.
Yes.
So with 40 out there, that means it's competitive.
It really does. It does, for sure. So 40 is your answer there. Hey, let's go to frequently asked questions this week. And I've got one. I'll start this off. Frequently asked questions that we've gotten this past year, and I know this is going to resonate as soon as I bring this up. The majority of people ask us, what was the most difficult or the hardest part during your move?
And people always ask, how'd you move all the cars?
They think it was the cars, but that's not the truth. The cars were easy, weren't they? How quickly we moved the cars, Taylor?
It was in a day.
It was in a day. The most complex piece during our move was the parts.
Yeah.
Because when you go to our parts department, you got to think every single part is in the computer by a rack and a bin and a row.
Yes.
So once we took it out of row 3, rack 8, bin B, we had to take it out, go all the way across town to a new shelving system, and then piece by piece put it on there and recategorize it in the system.
So I'll tell you my frequently most asked question by employees, and this is just so funny, but might as well. They always ask, where's your golf carts?
I
just got it asked yesterday. There was a salesperson in trying to sell golf carts. Don't blame them, right? But if you know me by any means, what did I tell people to do? Just get to walking. Get to walking.
If you push off with your toes, you can up your speed, and it gives you more time to do other things during the day. That's just my tip. My dad taught me that.
This poor guy was in trying to sell Shelby golf carts. I was sitting on the opposite end of the desk.
What's your step count today?
I was laughing the farther he dug his hole because he thought he was getting closer. As I know my brother, he was so far away.
Just gets a step, and chances are, and we learned that from our dad, but somebody put me in a step challenge last week and was hey, and I think it was for the week, it was 158,000 steps. 74 miles is what it equated to.
Not too bad.
Which was only running about 30 miles in the week. So the rest was walking. But I told the golf cart guy, and this is why we don't have golf carts. One, because I believe you should move, and it keeps your body moving. But I said something about golf carts. We know this from the fairgrounds sell. But it's funny, we were asking with the other manager that came from a store that had them. I said something about when a grown-up, whether they be 22 or 72, when they get in a golf cart, they turn back to 8 years old. And the manager started dying laughing yesterday when I said that. He said, at this other store, just the other day, there was 6 guys on a 2-person golf cart, and they went around the corner, flipped it, and one of the guys broke his arm. I said, sold. See, I'm telling you, every single time. So they say, where are your golf carts? I say, hey, show me your shoes. Let's go.
Your
so you never know what's going to be asked in there. Any other FAQs to add?
No, that covers them all.
Let's get to takeaways today, whether it was from the Construction and Developers Banquet or market opportunities. My takeaway for the day, I'm going to go C&D Banquet because we were just from it. Yep. And my takeaway is being able to see how healthy and how much is poured into Northwest Arkansas, really in the infrastructure there, because the infrastructure is what keeps it going. It's not just a Band-Aid. It's a long-term. So my takeaway is being able to see all the developers out there, all the construction people helping us to continue to put the infrastructure in for the growth in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say my takeaway is take notes and keep track of the things that's in your daily operation. And so I'm not saying take notes, take action that second, but the things that we talked about today, my takeaway in those notes, you will find opportunity that you can either be better at or you can absorb to have a better customer experience. So take notes in your daily operation, and you'll find your next project or your next thing you can win at. It's in front of you, and it's happening. Just take notes and then reflect on it.
Agreed.
Absolutely. And I think my biggest is going to be your vendors. Remember, they're an extension of you. Hold them to a higher caliber and make sure they're performing the work that complements your name coming back to your business.
Now, those are good.
Hey, as this thing is rolling, remember we roll into our November, and it's no tax November.
Yeah.
No tax November. So call out to action. We got to ask you for some business. So if you're in the area, Northwest Arkansas, stop by and see us. Exit 65 right in Fayetteville, where it's no tax November, paying your sales tax up to $1,500, making sure that we're taking care of you.
And also it's Section 179 time. So I'll throw that in there. You get my brain rolling on this. And Section 179 is for all business sizes out there that you can take accelerated depreciation up to 100% of the vehicle. Now remember that qualifies, most people don't know this, it qualifies on new and used vehicles. And if you want a fun vehicle and you're a business owner, hey, Jeeps and Broncos, they qualify too. So come in and see. Get you a cool tax write-off and a cool vehicle for the end of the year. Hey, thank you guys for joining us today. If you like the content we had, do us a favor. Would you share it? Would you leave us a review so we can get this content out to other business leaders and entrepreneurs? It'd mean the world to us. So hit that like button, give us a comment, give us a review, and then share it out there in the world.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a like, share it with your friends and family, even visit our website, send us the questions about what you want to know, what you want to hear, tell us about the automotive industry, family business in general. Who do you want to hear from? Send them our way, and we'll do our best to answer any questions you have, but make sure you tune in next time where we bring in another guest and we talk more about the automotive industry and all the great things going on within our business.